There are recordings that give you chills. That tense instant that happens just a few seconds before everything spins out of control. It might be an accident, a fatal mistake, or a situation that changes everything all of a sudden. There is nothing staged. It is real life captured at the critical moment. And that is exactly what you're going to see here today. So go ahead and drop your like, click the subscribe button below, and let's go. During a wedding photo shoot in Beirut, in Lebanon, a bride named Isrea Sablani was posing in her white dress on the city streets when one of the largest non-nuclear explosions in history happened. It was August 4th of 2020, and the scene, which began as a happy and symbolic moment, turned into a real nightmare in seconds. The powerful shockwave from the explosion hit the location hard, knocking down glass, scattering debris everywhere, and making Isrea and the photographer run desperately for safety. The explosion started at the port of Beirut and was caused by about 2,750 tons of ammonium nitrate that had been improperly stored in a warehouse for years. The impact was so great that it devastated entire neighborhoods of the city. Buildings collapsed, hospitals were overwhelmed, and Lebanon plunged into an even deeper crisis. The video of the bride being interrupted by the blast spread around the world as a brutal portrait of how life can change in an instant. The contrast between the wedding dress and the destruction around it became a symbol of the tragedy and the strength of those who survived. A group of tourists went through a serious scare during a boat ride that promised nothing but fun and adrenaline. The vessel was going at high speed through an apparently calm area when, suddenly, it began to slam violently into something no one could see. The hits were so abrupt that it seemed like the boat was going over invisible potholes in the water. Within seconds, the passengers started being thrown from side to side, totally out of control, until some ended up falling off the boat. The pilot tried to regain control, but the sequence of impacts destabilized everything. What seemed like a safe route turned into chaos, with screams, people being tossed, and a tension that took over everyone on board. Despite the scare, fortunately no one was seriously injured, but the situation raised an important alert about the risks of speeding on the water, especially in places where the seabed can hide dangerous obstacles like sandbanks, submerged rocks, or unpredictable currents. In the end, this experience served as a reminder that when it comes to nature, the scene can flip from fun to panic in a matter of seconds. Security camera footage recorded the moments leading up to one of the most devastating environmental disasters in the history of Brazil, the collapse of the dam in Brumadinho in Minas Gerais state in Brazil. In the images, it is possible to see the structure suddenly giving way, releasing a gigantic wave of mud that surges with overwhelming force, swallowing everything in its path. In just a few seconds, entire areas vanish under the thick mass of tailings. The scene, which had seemed stable, turns into an unrecognizable landscape of destruction and silence. The speed with which it all happened is frightening. There was no time to react. The mud traveled kilometers, altering the courses of rivers, burying buildings, and leaving a trail of chaos wherever it went. The impact was so great that it compromised the entire ground structure, contaminated water resources, destroyed ecosystems, and deeply affected the lives of entire communities. The region, once full of nature and human activity, became a field of ruins. The disaster sparked urgent debates about the safety of dams in Brazil and laid bare serious failures in oversight and risk control in operations of this scale. More than a one-off tragedy, Brumadinho became a national symbol of negligence and of how corporate decisions can result in irreversible consequences. The images captured before the collapse not only document where it began, but also serve as a grim reminder of what happens when safety is left in the background. What was supposed to be just another ordinary day became a permanent scar in the country's history. A driver stopped at a traffic light and used the pause to take a bite of his sandwich. Everything seemed calm until suddenly a car at high speed came from behind and slammed straight into his vehicle. The hit was so strong that the snack flew out of his hands, and the scare took over the moment. Although the impact caused significant damage to the car, luckily no one was seriously injured. But the episode raises an important alert. The habit of eating at the wheel, as common as it may seem, can be dangerous. Even in brief stops, like at a red light, the driver's reaction time can be compromised if something unexpected happens, such as an accident or a need for a quick maneuver. Eating requires the use of the hands, visual focus, and attention, taking the driver out of the ideal state of readiness. The driver seems to have been okay, but remember, driving demands total dedication, and any distraction, no matter how small, can put lives at risk. In the end, it is best to save the snack for after arrival, when safety is guaranteed. A man in Florida narrowly escaped death after being brutally attacked by an alligator almost 4 meters long. He was swimming in a lake in Hillsborough County in the United States during the filming of a promotional commercial for his company when he was surprised by the creature. The scariest detail is that he had forgotten his swimming goggles and did not even see the alligator coming his way. The attack was quick and violent. The animal bit him with full force. Even with the gravity of the situation, JC Defeats managed to fight back. In an act of pure instinct, he shoved his hands into the alligator's mouth to try to free himself. Courage and composure saved his life, but the damage was serious, forcing doctors to perform reconstructive surgeries. JC spent 8 days hospitalized, and even after discharge, he is still recovering with many injuries across his body. Despite everything, he firmly states that he had faith he would get out of that situation alive, and he did. Now, as he prepares for another surgery, he makes a point of reassuring everyone he is fine and definitely stronger than ever. During the fight against a house fire in a neighborhood in Brooklyn, in New York City, in the United States, an unexpected and dangerous situation almost ended in tragedy. While dozens of firefighters were working to contain the flames, an air conditioning unit fell from a window and hit squarely one of the professionals on the front line. The scene was recorded on camera and shows the tense moment when the equipment suddenly drops and strikes the firefighter, who had to be rushed to the hospital. Despite the seriousness, the firefighter is okay and not in life-threatening condition, but it is worth remembering that in the chaos of a fire, any detail, including loose or poorly secured objects on windows, can become a new danger. In all, more than 100 firefighters took part in the operation, and another 5 also needed care during the incident. The good news is that everyone is recovering, but the scare was big. A group of people decided to enjoy a day at the park and got on a spinning ride known as the octopus, the one with several arms that rotate in different directions and lift the cars with force. Everything was going as expected, with screams of excitement and lots of adrenaline, until suddenly some of the cars came loose from the ride's arms and fell to the ground. The impact was strong, and the noise drew everyone's attention. By great luck, despite the frightening scene and the panic that took over the place, initial information indicates that no one was seriously injured. Accidents like this show how essential it is for parks to undergo frequent inspections and for structures to be maintained with the utmost care. After all, a moment of leisure can easily turn into a tragedy when something gets out of control. In a video recorded on the island of Koh Ngai in Thailand, some tourists were filming and chatting calmly at the water's edge, not imagining they were about to experience one of the worst natural disasters in history. Suddenly, a wave different from normal approached, causing strangeness and making everyone quickly step back. What seemed like just an unusual tide was actually the beginning of the devastating tsunami of 2004. The island was on the side facing the continent, which meant they did not receive the direct impact, but rather the force of the water wrapping around the island. Even so, the scare was huge. A few hours later, other regions along the coast of the Indian Ocean would be completely devastated by giant waves generated by an earthquake of magnitude 9.1 near the coast of Sumatra in Indonesia. The disaster left more than 230,000 dead in 14 countries, destroying entire villages and forever changing the lives of millions of people. The video seen today gives chills by showing the calm before the chaos, a moment when no one there knew that small advance of the sea was the harbinger of a global tragedy. The Challenger disaster, which occurred on January 28th of 1986, is one of the most striking and tragic moments in the history of space exploration. The mission STS-51-L aimed to place a satellite into orbit and carry out scientific experiments, but it also carried a historic component, the presence of Krista McAuliffe, a teacher who would take part in the Teacher in Space project and was the first civilian to go to space. There were 7 people on board. Shortly after liftoff, about 73 seconds into the launch, the space shuttle disintegrated in the air due to the failure of a sealing ring in the right booster rocket, which could not withstand the low temperatures that day. Among the various recordings of the moment, one of the most impactful is from helicopter cameras that followed the launch live, capturing clearly the moment the craft explodes and breaks apart in the sky. This case led to one of NASA's largest investigations, resulting in significant changes to safety protocols. In addition, it serves as a warning that as fascinating as space exploration is, each launch involves very high risks and demands the utmost care. It was a typical scene from any day in traffic. The car's dash cam showed everything flowing calmly. The driver stopped at the traffic light, waited for the green, and as soon as it changed, he proceeded normally. No sign that anything out of the ordinary was about to happen. But in a matter of seconds, routine turned into a scare. A man on a motorcycle suddenly appeared, coming from another direction, apparently trying to cross the lane without realizing the car was already moving forward. The impact was straight into the front of the vehicle, catching everyone by surprise. The camera recorded every detail, from the moment the motorcyclist enters the frame to the sharp sound of the crash. Situations like this show how in traffic, a split second of carelessness is all it takes for everything to change completely. The security camera, positioned high atop a building, was recording the calm scene of pedestrians crossing a busy street in Tokyo. Everything seemed routine until suddenly some began to slow down, look around, and change their pace. It was the instant when the first tremors of the earthquake of magnitude 6.1 that hit the region began to be felt. The epicenter was in Chiba at about 80 kilometers deep, and the impact was enough to register strong level 5 on Japan's seismic intensity scale. In the images, it is possible to see people stopping their walk, still trying to understand what was happening. Despite the intensity, there was no tsunami alert, and the reported damage was limited. Even so, the scare was widespread, since earthquakes at that level can cause accidents and falling objects, especially in dense urban areas like Tokyo. For those who were on the street at that moment, the sensation was of an unstable ground that seemed to move for endless seconds. A real reminder that in Japan, routine can change in the blink of an eye. Sitting on little stools is not as safe as it seems, and this man found that out the hard way. He approached calmly to sit next to a woman, probably just to rest a bit, but as soon as he settled, something strange happened. The stool sank in a suspicious way, and discomfort came almost instantly. Within seconds, he began to show that something was wrong, and it was not just any pain. When he tried to stand up came the surprise. The little stool did not want to let him go, and it was not because of his clothes, but because an extremely sensitive part of his body, if you know what I mean, had gotten stuck in the seat's structure. His wife even tried to help, but it does not seem to have worked out. Very carefully, he sat down again, trying to free the boys and ease the pain. This guy is never going to look at a little stool the same way again. After all, who would have thought that a simple place to sit could turn into a painful and unforgettable trap? In an industrial warehouse, a worker was alone performing the task of moving large steel coils, each weighing hundreds of kilos. The environment was quite calm until a small slip made one of the coils fall directly onto his legs. The impact was immediate and frightening, pinning him to the ground without him being able to move. The situation was desperate. Fortunately, other employees who were in nearby sections heard the noise and ran to see what had happened. When they arrived, they realized the gravity and acted quickly to lift the coil and free their colleague. The scene serves as a somber reminder of how some industrial jobs can be extremely dangerous. Handling heavy loads and large machines requires doubled attention and, above all, strict adherence to safety standards. Protective equipment, correct procedures, and when possible, teamwork are not just formal rules. They are measures that can mean the difference between going home at the end of the day or suffering a serious accident. This incident reinforces that in the workplace, safety must always come before haste or routine. Do not forget to subscribe to watch more videos like this.